All right, well, that was a really interesting event. This was the Apple Springtime April 20th event. They released a bunch of new products, talked about a whole bunch of new stuff. Just sat through and watched the whole thing. It was an hour long. And I'm a little bit surprised. Got a little more than what I was anticipating, than what I was thinking. So I took some notes as we were going through and as I was watching it. So let's dive into kind of what some of this means and some of the more specifics about the products that Apple released. There was a lot of marketing jargon and a lot of flashy videos shown to us, but I kind of want to break it down a little bit further and talk more about what exactly some of this means. So on their website here, we can go through and see everything that they announced. They're going to start with the big stuff. So the iMac, we'll jump right into the iMac. This redesign has been a long time coming. The old iMac design has stayed the same forever. This old familiar iMac design has literally been the same for like 10 years now. And it was due for a refresh. It's time for something different. So this is what we got. We have all kinds of fun new colors, very springtimey. Reminds me of Easter. I'm actually not a huge fan of the colors. I don't know, that's just me. I prefer more neutral stuff, or if it's gonna be a color, make it a little more bold and vibrant. I do like the square design. That seems to be the way that Apple is going with all their products, just squaring them off and making them more boxy. So I do really like that. It looks like most of them have like a white bezel to them. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the chin here that's still there without the Apple logo. I mean, I get it, you have to put the components somewhere. To me, it's like, I could do without it. All kinds of fun different colors here. To be honest, I'm boring. I'd probably just opt for the silver, maybe the blue to match my blue iPhone 12. It got M1, the M1 chip, which is amazing. I've been running an M1 MacBook since they came out last fall, about 6 months ago. I bought one right away and it's been amazing. I can attest to what Tim Cook was saying about just the extraordinary performance that this chip brings. It's truly awesome. The fact that it has a 1080p camera now is something that's been long overdue. The Macs have always had 720p cameras and they've looked kind of bad. So we finally get a good camera system in here. We also get a good mic array for recording audio. I don't know that necessarily, anybody in a professional sense should actually record audio on a MacBook. I mean, even for this video, I'm recording on an overhead mic here. I don't know that I'm brave enough to record on a MacBook directly. Maybe I'll try it someday, or an iMac in this case. We'll see how good that actually is. 4.5K Retina display. So that sounds, like something we've seen in the past with the 5K iMacs. Really just a lot of little tweaks and upgrades to the little things. They upgraded all the small things. They upgraded the speakers to have adaptive sound. They upgraded the camera. They upgraded the processor. All of these things combined to just an overall better experience. And so while I don't doubt that this iMac is going to be revolutionary, it's going to be insanely popular, and it's the best iMac they've ever made, I don't doubt that at all. Like it's a great computer, and honestly, I would probably buy one if I could afford it, but I can't afford it. So for now, I'm going to stick with my MacBook. One thing that did impress me with this, though, is the Touch ID within the keyboard. So they had 3 keyboard options you could choose from. You could either get the normal one. This one actually has Touch ID built into the corner there. You can get the normal one, you can get the one with the number keys off to the side, or you can get one without Touch ID. So that I actually find really cool, because I've owned iMacs in the past, and when you're used to your MacBook, especially these newer MacBooks with the Touch ID, you can just unlock it and not have to think about it. The iMacs were a little different. You had to type in a password, or I would have it unlocked from my watch to double click. There was just always that one step of friction that you had grown accustomed to Face ID and Touch ID on the laptops. With the iMac, it was missing that thing. So I think that's really cool that they can do wireless Touch ID like that. So that I am actually impressed by, and I think that's really cool. There's no Face ID on these Macs, though. With that Touch ID, there were some rumors potentially we could get Face ID on an iMac. I think that would be the ultimate solution, to just sit down in front of it and it unlocks for you. But I get it for privacy concerns, like if you don't want your computer open when you're sitting at your desk. But maybe someday we'll see that. And then the one last thing, I don't think they have it on their site here, that I just geeked out about, is the cord, the plug that plugs into the back. The power cord is actually it's braided, number one, so the braided power cord is more durable. It looks nicer. They actually had an Ethernet plug on the power cord adapter. So I'm like, duh. that was awesome. That's one less thing that you have plugged into the back of your iMac. You can just plug your Ethernet in along your power cable, and it just stays, under your desk or along the floor. So I think that's really, really cool. And then it also has 4 USB-C ports on the back side for connectivity. So overall, the iMac is completely redesigned. It's new, both inside and out, and I like it. The iMac I think is a great machine. I've used several of them in the past. Like I say, since the M1 MacBooks came out, I've been using MacBooks primarily, but I might have to see if I can get my hands on one of these at some point to see if I can test it out, because it does look quite intriguing. Let's move on now to the iPad Pro. This is actually really cool also, and I was not quite expecting them to put the M1 chip into the iPad Pro, which, surprise, what they did, because the iPad Pro is already running the A series chip. So the same chip that's in your iPhone, and I activated my Siri by saying that. The same chip that's in your iPhone was in the same chip that's in the iPad, and it was running fine. It was running great. The iPads were already just like crushing it in terms of performance, and now they went and put the M1 chip into the iPad. So that tells me a couple of things. Obviously, they went through the whole event and they talked about all the fancy marketing jargon about, how much faster it is and percentages and all this stuff, these vague graphs that Apple gives us. Really, what it comes down to, what I see and what I predict, not necessarily predict, is that this is one step closer to the iPad actually becoming a computer replacement, because now it's no longer running a mobile chip. Like the iPhone is always going to be an iPhone. It's going to have a mobile architecture. That's just the way it is. The M1, however, is built for computers, so it can run things like Finder, and it can run more Unix-based applications, that you would see on a laptop or a MacBook. And now that that's in the iPad, I see this becoming a huge possibility for software development. Like, we might actually get things like Final Cut Pro. We might get more desktop class applications on the iPad that aren't just scaled up versions of iPhone apps. We might actually get, apps built for the Mac that are transported over to the iPad. So that's kind of my hope, my dream with them introducing the M1 chip on the iPad. But like I say, we'll see what happens with that. They did all their marketing stuff about the M1 chip, nothing that we haven't really seen before when they reintroduced it, or when they introduced it last fall with the MacBooks. XDR, it's mini LED. It's Apple's way of saying mini LED, which is awesome, but I'm sad it didn't come to the 11-inch model, because I actually much prefer that model. I prefer the sizing of that, but that's awesome that's on the larger one. It has 5G cellular capability, which is nice for keeping people connected. Again, I don't use that. I just use Wi-Fi. All of these brand new things. And then the last thing they talked about was the white keyboard, the white Magic Keyboard. I'll see if I can scroll to find it here. And I'm intrigued by that, because I like the actual Magic Keyboard. I used to have one, but I got rid of it because I can't afford to buy these things. Keep them, anyways, that's besides the point. Yeah, here we go. The white Magic Keyboard. I like that. I think it fits into the ecosystem better with the white Apple Pencil, and especially if you have a silver or a white iPad. I think it looks really nice and really sharp. I am interested to see, though, how it's going to hold up durability-wise. I feel like that's going to get really dirty because of the silicone material that it's made out of. Like I say, I used to have one, and they just got dirty easily and quickly. So I feel like the white may not hold up that long. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I might buy one and just see how it goes. And then the one last thing that the iPad had that I was actually pretty stoked about was the wide-angle camera on the front, which I have a wide-angle camera on my iPhone 12 mini, and I think it's useful, but like, this is the perfect application for a wide-angle, to be able to, FaceTime or call somebody and have it automatically track you as you're walking around the frame. All it's doing is just zoomed in into the camera and then, moving its focus point. But I think that's so cool, so smart. That to me is just an awesome application for a wide angle camera. Just very cool. So that's the iPad Pro. Pretty excited about it. It also has Thunderbolt capability in the USB-C port for faster data transfer speeds. All of these things, basically it's bigger and better across the board, as we would expect. The next thing they introduced, and this isn't in order, if you want to see it in order, just go watch it. I'm kind of doing like biggest to smallest things. They also introduced a purple iPhone 12. I mean, Basically, if you want to know about that, just go watch any iPhone 12 video out there. I did a video on the iPhone 12 mini, which you can check out up in the corner if you want. But they introduced a purple one for springtime, I guess, for people that have the money to say, I want to buy an entire new iPhone because it's springtime and the color fits me at this time of year, and then I can switch back and buy a new one in 6 months when they release the new one. I don't know. They did it for some reason. For some people, they may like that, but purple iPhone. Cool. And then AirTags. Finally, we get AirTags. It's been so long. It's been like a year and a half, 2 years, that we have had the potential to get these, and that they've been rumored at least, and they're finally here. And I'm actually excited because if we finally have an Apple product made by Apple, branded by Apple, you can buy on their website that's like under $50, and that's like actually a device. You know what I mean? Like the cheapest thing on their website was like a case, a case or a watch band or something. And now finally we have something useful that we can buy. So this is just an item tracker. So if you've ever used like tile trackers, I used to use them in the past. Just the little cheap electronic devices you can like throw in your wallet or your backpack, and then you can press the button on your phone. It'll ding when you found it. You attach it to your keys or something. This is Apple's alternative to that, and I think they did it really well because it's literally like the size of a quarter. Like it's tiny, which is perfect. You don't want something bulky to have to attach to your stuff for when you lose it. So, and it also integrates into the Find My network, which is huge. You don't have to download some weird third-party app on your phone that works half the time and half the time it doesn't. It's integrated right into the ecosystem. You can, assign it emojis. You can customize them when you order them. You can attach them to things. There's cases. I think they did, in typical Apple fashion, really well with this ecosystem, and this is just going to become a huge popular thing. So I'm actually pretty excited about this. The fact that you get legitimate spatial finding from your iPhone, that it uses the U1 chip in your phone to communicate, and it tells you like when you're close to it. And I'm pretty sure, you can even press a button and it'll like make a sound, like there's a speaker built into that little tracker. So that's really cool to be able to like find your stuff when you lost it. I think that would be really handy for some people, and I might have to grab a few of those myself and just leave them around the house and put them in some things. But we finally have AirTags, which is really exciting. It's cool to see Apple finally stepping into that space that kind of was in need of some better alternatives. The one thing I am curious about, though, is the battery life on these things. Apple says it'll last about a year, and then you can easily replace the battery. So I don't know what that looks like, what that means. They might have said it in the keynote, but I had some connectivity issues during that point. That should be cool. They're waterproof, everything. So I mean, I'm excited. I think this will be really cool, and this is going to be a whole new space for Apple. An Hermes AirTag adapter thing, because you want to spend $30 on a tracker device and then like $150 on a leather case for your tracker device, because why not? They're Apple. They have to offer that. Oh no, I'm sorry. Starting at $300 for, goodness gracious, why do people buy this stuff? Moving on to the Apple TV, we got some minor updates there. The Apple TV 4K did get an update. The box itself is going to look the same. I'm sure the UI is going to look the same. All the software. I am excited about the remote. The remote is finally looking, like it did a few years ago with the older click wheel, and that's great. The higher contrast buttons. I currently have this one with the annoying touchpad, and it's like so difficult to get precise with that thing. It's kind of one of the dumber products I think Apple's made. While it looks nice and space agey, I'm not a fan of it. So I'm glad that they're actually going back to this click wheel design. And it's funny, I actually took a note. They said in the keynote, they're like, this all new design where you scroll around the wheel to get it to, move. And I'm like, oh, that kind of seems like we've seen that before, and whatever. I wouldn't call it all new, but all right. But that's literally been on like iPods since iPods were a thing. So the inclusion of a power button is actually really nice, so you can control your TV with it. And then Siri buttons are on the side. So I think this is a really good and needed upgrade to the Apple TV. I mean, there's not much you can do in this space, and most of it's just software based. But the remote definitely was in need of an update, so I'm glad to see that they finally fixed that there. And then they also talked about this interesting thing with color calibration. And let me see if I can find it on their site here. Yeah, so here we go. They talked about this thing where you hold up your phone to the TV screen. So you would hold it up and it would measure the light coming off of the screen, and then your phone would communicate with the Apple TV to tell it how the colors are coming across on the screen, and then how to calibrate it so you see the best colors on your TV screen. So that to me sounded very fascinating. Oh, and this is interactive. Turn your iPhone around so the front-facing camera is pointing at your television. Wait, does this work? Can I actually do this? Hang on. All right, I don't know if this actually works on their site. I can't get to work on my phone. But basically, it would help you use your phone to calibrate the color on the screen to take advantage of the full richness that the color provides. So that I think is pretty cool. And I really hope that's something that they just push over the air on a software update. So people like me who use, an older 4th gen Apple TV can actually take advantage of this, because that would be really neat. And that's it for products. A couple other things that they mentioned way in the beginning of the event that weren't products were the fact that they redesigned their podcasting app. So the purple Apple Podcast app now has a new look, a new design, and they also introduced some kind of a subscription-based thing, which okay. I mean, podcasts are already free. Yes, I get it. There's ads. And if you're somebody that can afford and wants to pay for a podcasting service so you don't have to listen to ads and can listen before anybody else, then you do you. But I mean, for me, a podcast subscription is kind of redundant. And to me, I'm like, what's the point? The redesign is great, but I mean, I use Spotify anyway for all of my podcasts. So tomato, tomato. And then the first thing, but the last thing I'm going to talk about, the first thing they talked about, last thing I'm going to talk about is the Apple Card. They changed the way it works, so now you can add the Apple Card to your family, like your iCloud sharing, so that your spouse can use it and you can both share the same credit card and both get the credit benefits that come with that. So, I mean, that's a cool thing. That's a good thing. They did mention that anybody over the age of 13 in your house can have access and use it also. Like, obviously you set that up through the app and they don't have access if you don't want them to, but I'm not exactly gonna go give my teenage kids access to my credit card. So if I had teenage kids, but that's what's new with that. So just credit card sharing, and you can share kind of on your credit score. So that's really it. I mean, I took a ton of notes on this thing. All that to say, there was a lot of marketing jargon and a lot of fancy Apple speak talking about stuff, but we got a couple new services. So recap, big picture, Apple Card update so you can share with your family, podcast redesign and subscriptions. We have a purple iPhone 12, an iPhone 12 mini if you want a purple iPhone 12. We have AirTags finally, so that's something I'm excited about. I'm actually going to probably buy and use. We have the updated Apple TV coming with some new software updates and a new remote, which is exciting. We have a completely redesigned iMac, all new colors, new design inside and out, running the new M1 chip, new speakers, new camera, new everything, new keyboards. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty exciting. We have new iPad Pros with the M1 chip, and like I say, I'm hopeful. They didn't allude to any of this in the video, but this is just entirely me. I'm hopeful that means that down the line, maybe at WWDC, they'll announce that, hey, by the way, iPad has M1. You can now compile and run Unix-based, computer applications on your iPad, not just mobile applications. So that to me would be a dream, if we could start getting some computer-based stuff on the iPad. That would be sweet. That's just me, but that's a direction I hope it would take. But aside from that, we got the M1 chip. We got a new 2 terabyte storage option in the iPad. It has 5G. All kinds of just little different updates to make it smarter and better. We got a white magic keyboard case that I'm sure is just going to get filthy. And then that's really it. That's all my notes I had on it. Those are the products. Those are the services. That's what's new. Some pretty exciting stuff. Like I say, new products coming out. We can start ordering them in 10 days on April 30th. So I'm probably going to do that and just get excited about what's coming next. So until then, let me know your thoughts on all this. Comment below. What were you expecting? Is there anything you missed out on? I know there were rumors for a new Apple Pencil, but we didn't see that. Maybe they'll talk about it later on during the year. But for now, this is what we got, and I'm pretty happy with it. I'm excited. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.